For decades, country music fans whispered about dark secrets hiding behind the smiles, the cowboy hats, and the heartbreak songs. Some rumors sounded too wild to believe. Stories of addiction, forbidden love, mysterious deaths, and scandals Nashville desperately tried to silence. But years later, shocking evidence, eyewitness accounts, and even the stars themselves revealed the truth. Tonight, we uncover 11 old country music rumors that turned out to be terrifyingly real. Number 11. Johnny Cash. The rumors about drugs were far worse than fans imagined. For years, fans whispered that Johnny Cash wasn't just battling a small addiction problem behind the scenes. The rumors painted a much darker picture. Stories of pills hidden in guitar cases, violent mood swings, sleepless nights, and entire tours nearly collapsing because the man in black could barely function. At the time, many people dismissed those stories as exaggerated gossip created by tabloids trying to destroy country music's biggest outlaw star. But the terrifying truth was even worse. By the mid-1960s, Cash had become deeply addicted to amphetamines and barbiturates. The pressure of nonstop touring, recording, television appearances, and fame had pushed him into a dangerous cycle that was slowly consuming his life. Friends later revealed that he could stay awake for days at a time, surviving almost entirely on pills while traveling from city to city. His weight dropped dramatically, his behavior became unpredictable, and backstage, many people no longer recognized the man they once admired. Then came the incident that shocked America. In 1965, Johnny Cash was arrested at the U.S.-Mexico border after authorities discovered hundreds of stimulant pills hidden inside his guitar case and luggage. Suddenly, the rumors no longer sounded crazy. Newspapers across the country exploded with headlines about the beloved country singer secretly living a double life fueled by drugs. Fans who had refused to believe the gossip were forced to confront the reality that Cash's addiction had become completely out of control. But even that arrest only scratched the surface. According to people close to him, Cash's addiction became so severe that he frequently disappeared for days into caves and forests in Tennessee, isolated from friends and family while heavily under the influence. At one point, his first marriage was collapsing, his career was beginning to unravel, and promoters feared he might die before reaching old age. Some insiders even believed he was intentionally destroying himself. What makes the story so haunting is that Johnny Cash later admitted much of it himself. In interviews and autobiographies, he openly described the terrifying grip drugs had over his life and how close he came to losing everything, including his career, his family, and his faith. The rumors that once sounded outrageous turned out to be painfully true. Behind the deep voice, the black clothing, and the outlaw image was a man fighting one of the darkest battles in country music history. 10. Patsy Cline, the chilling rumors that she predicted her own death. Long before the tragic plane crash that took her life, strange rumors surrounded Patsy Cline. Friends, fellow musicians, and even family members claimed the country legend often spoke as if she somehow knew her time was running out. At first, most people ignored the stories. Some believed she was simply dramatic. Others thought fans were inventing ghostly myths after her death to make the tragedy feel even more mysterious. But years later, too many details began lining up for people to dismiss them completely. In the final months of her life, Patsy reportedly became unusually emotional and reflective. According to close friends, she frequently talked about death in conversations that left people deeply uncomfortable. She had already survived a horrifying car accident in 1961 that nearly killed her and left her hospitalized for weeks. Many who knew her believed that experience changed something inside her forever. After the crash, she reportedly began telling people she didn't think she would live very long. Then came the eerie stories that fueled the rumors for decades. Several people later claimed Patsy had started giving away personal belongings shortly before her final trip. One friend remembered her saying she wanted certain keepsakes to go to specific people, just in case. Another recalled Patsy calmly discussing funeral arrangements during casual conversation, something that seemed bizarre at the time. Even more unsettling, some witnesses claimed she repeatedly said she felt an overwhelming sense of doom whenever she boarded airplanes. At first, these stories sounded too cinematic to be real. But on March 5th, 1963, Patsy Cline boarded a small private plane after performing at a benefit concert in Kansas City. The aircraft encountered severe weather before crashing near Camden, Tennessee, killing everyone on board instantly. She was only 30 years old. In the aftermath, the rumors exploded across country music. Fans became obsessed with the idea that Patsy somehow sensed what was coming. The more people investigated her final weeks, the more chilling details surfaced. Friends confirmed many of the strange conversations. Musicians who toured with her admitted she had become deeply uneasy about flying. Some even recalled her telling them, "Honey, I've had 2 bad ones. The third one will either be a charm or it'll kill me." That quote would haunt country music history forever. Unlike many celebrity rumors that collapse under scrutiny, this one survived because so many witnesses independently remembered the same disturbing behavior. Whether it was intuition, trauma from her previous accident, or pure coincidence, one thing became impossible to ignore. Patsy Cline spent her final days acting like a woman who already knew the end was near. 9. Hank Williams, the dark rumor that he was already dead before the show. Few stories in country music history have felt darker than the rumors surrounding Hank Williams' final hours. For decades, fans whispered that the legendary singer may have already been dead, while promoters and handlers desperately tried to keep his final concert appearances alive. At first, the story sounded too horrifying to believe, the kind of twisted myth that grows larger over time. But the truth behind Hank Williams' death turned out to be disturbingly close to the rumors. By the early 1950s, Williams was physically falling apart. Despite becoming one of the biggest stars country music had ever seen, he was battling severe alcoholism, chronic pain, exhaustion, and addiction to prescription drugs. Years of nonstop touring had destroyed his health. Behind the scenes, people close to him watched his condition rapidly deteriorate, while management continued booking performances because demand for Hank Williams was simply too profitable to stop. As his behavior became more erratic, rumors spread throughout Nashville that the singer could barely make it through shows. Some nights he arrived intoxicated, other nights he failed to appear entirely. Yet fans kept buying tickets because nobody wanted to believe America's greatest country songwriter was collapsing in real time. Then came New Year's Day, 1953. Williams had been scheduled to perform in Canton, Ohio, but bad weather prevented him from flying. Instead, he hired a college student named Charles Carr to drive him through the night. According to reports, Hank was already extremely ill before the trip even began. Witnesses described him as pale, weak, and barely responsive as he was placed into the back seat of the car wrapped in blankets. Hours later, during the drive, something terrifying happened. Carr later stated that Hank appeared alive when they stopped briefly during the trip. But when the driver checked on him again near Oak Hill, West Virginia, the country legend was motionless. Hank Williams was dead at just 29 years old. That alone would have been tragic enough. But what fueled the rumors for decades was what happened afterward. Because concert promoters and radio stations had not immediately learned about his death, confusion spread rapidly across multiple states. Some people later claimed organizers still expected him to arrive for scheduled appearances, while his body was already being transported elsewhere. Others believed management had delayed announcements to avoid chaos and financial disaster. Over time, exaggerated versions of the story emerged suggesting Hank had effectively remained on tour after death. While some rumors became distorted over the years, the core truth remained chillingly real. Hank Williams was pushed far beyond human limits by fame, addiction, and the brutal demands of the music industry. And by the time the world realized how sick he truly was, it was already too late. 8. Tammy Wynette, the mysterious kidnapping. Many people thought was fake. For years, one of the strangest rumors in country music centered around Tammy Wynette and a terrifying story that many people refused to believe. In 1978, the country superstar claimed she had been kidnapped at gunpoint by an unknown masked man while shopping at a mall in Nashville. According to Tammy, the attacker beat her, drove her around for hours, and eventually released her miles away from the city. But almost immediately, people began questioning whether the entire story was fabricated. The rumors spread fast through Nashville. Some believed Tammy had invented the kidnapping to hide a secret affair. Others thought she may have been covering up injuries caused by domestic violence or personal problems behind the scenes. Tabloids mocked the story relentlessly, and even some people inside the country music industry quietly doubted her version of events. The details sounded bizarre, and investigators struggled to identify any suspect. As the years passed, the mystery only became darker. Tammy Wynette was already living under enormous pressure at the time. Her volatile relationship with fellow country legend George Jones had become infamous, and her personal life was constantly under public scrutiny. Behind the glamorous image of the First Lady of country music, there were rumors of emotional breakdowns, prescription drug dependence, and chaotic relationships that fans rarely saw. That's why many people assumed the kidnapping story was simply another chapter in an already troubled life. But despite decades of skepticism, Tammy never changed her story. In interview after interview, she insisted the attack was real. Friends close to her claimed she appeared genuinely terrified afterward and suffered emotional trauma for years. Some witnesses described visible bruises and injuries shortly after the alleged kidnapping. Even more intriguingly, several investigators admitted there were aspects of the case they could never fully explain. The lack of evidence only intensified public fascination. Over time, the rumor transformed into one of country music's most enduring mysteries. Some believed Tammy was protecting someone powerful. Others thought the attacker may have been obsessed with her fame. A few even suspected the truth was far more personal and painful than anyone realized publicly. What makes the story so haunting is that no definitive answer ever emerged. Unlike many celebrity scandals that eventually become clear with time, Tammy Wynette's kidnapping remains trapped in uncertainty decades later. Yet one thing became impossible to deny. The emotional fear and instability surrounding the event were very real. Whether every detail happened exactly as described or not, Tammy spent the rest of her life defending a story that much of America mocked and questioned. And in the world of old country music rumors, few mysteries remain more unsettling than the one nobody could ever fully prove or fully disprove. Number 7. George Jones. The wild drunken stories were somehow all true. For decades, country music fans traded outrageous stories about George Jones like urban legends. People claimed he disappeared for days on drinking binges, forgot entire concerts, destroyed relationships, and behaved so recklessly that even fellow country stars struggled to keep up with him. Some rumors sounded so absurd that fans assumed they had been exaggerated over time to fit Jones' outlaw reputation. But the shocking reality was that many of the stories were completely true. Behind the voice often called the greatest in country music history was a man consumed by alcoholism for much of his adult life. As his fame exploded during the 1960s and 1970s, so did his addictions. Friends later admitted that George could go on drinking binges lasting days while missing performances, disappearing without warning, and leaving promoters terrified about whether he would show up at all. Then came the story that became country music legend. According to multiple people close to him, including George himself, his wife once tried stopping his drinking by taking away the keys to his car. Most people assumed that would finally keep him home. Instead, George allegedly climbed onto a riding lawnmower and drove several miles down the highway to buy more whiskey. At first, the story sounded too ridiculous to believe. But over time, George Jones openly confirmed versions of the incident in interviews, turning what many thought was a fake rumor into one of the most famous moments in country music history. Fans laughed at the image of a drunken superstar driving a lawnmower through rural Tennessee, but behind the humor was a deeply troubled man spiraling further out of control. And things became even darker behind the scenes. His marriage to Tammy Wynette collapsed under the weight of addiction, emotional chaos, and violent arguments. Friends described homes destroyed during drunken outbursts and nights filled with paranoia, rage, and regret. Promoters lost massive amounts of money because George sometimes failed to appear for concerts entirely, earning him the painful nickname No-Show Jones. For years, many fans thought the industry was exaggerating his behavior for publicity. But George later admitted that alcohol nearly destroyed everything in his life. In autobiographies and interviews, he spoke openly about the terrifying depth of his addiction and how close he came to death multiple times. There were moments when even people closest to him believed he wouldn't survive much longer. What makes George Jones' story so unforgettable is the strange combination of tragedy and mythology surrounding him. The rumors became larger than life because the man himself seemed larger than life. And somehow, the craziest stories were often the most accurate. Behind one of the greatest voices country music ever produced was a man fighting demons almost every single night, and the world was watching him slowly lose the battle in public. Number 6. Loretta Lynn. The rumors about her troubled marriage were painfully real. For years, fans whispered that Loretta Lynn's marriage was far darker than the happy country image presented to the public. On stage, she looked confident, charming, and fiercely loyal to her husband, Oliver Doolittle Lynn. But behind the scenes, rumors spread throughout Nashville about violent arguments, infidelity, jealousy, and emotional pain hidden inside one of country music's most famous marriages. At first, many fans refused to believe it. Loretta Lynn represented traditional country values to millions of Americans. Songs like Coal Miner's Daughter made her feel relatable, strong, and deeply connected to family life. The idea that her home life might actually be chaotic and emotionally damaging seemed impossible to reconcile with her public image. But over time, the truth slowly emerged, and much of it came directly from Loretta herself. As her fame grew during the 1960s and 1970s, rumors intensified about her husband's behavior. People close to the couple claimed Doolittle frequently cheated on her, drank heavily, and became controlling whenever Loretta's success overshadowed his own life. Some stories described explosive fights backstage before concerts. Others claimed Loretta often appeared emotionally exhausted after arguments at home. Then her music began revealing more than fans realized. Songs like Fist City and Don't Come Home a-Drinkin' suddenly sounded less like fictional country storytelling and more like deeply personal confessions. Fans started noticing how often her lyrics referenced infidelity, drinking, betrayal, and anger. Many began wondering whether Loretta was quietly telling the truth about her own marriage through her music. Years later, she confirmed much of it. In interviews and autobiographies, Loretta openly admitted that her marriage had been filled with pain, affairs, and physical confrontations. She described Doolittle as both the man who believed in her talent and the man who caused her enormous suffering. According to Loretta, there were times when their relationship became emotionally explosive and deeply unhealthy, yet she remained loyal to him for decades. What shocked many fans most was how honest she eventually became. Rather than protecting the fantasy of a perfect country marriage, Loretta acknowledged the complicated reality behind closed doors. She admitted there were moments she wanted to leave, moments she felt heartbroken, moments she struggled to survive emotionally while building a legendary career at the same time. The rumors that once sounded like cruel gossip turned out to be rooted in painful truth. Behind the rhinestones, television appearances, and classic love songs was a woman enduring a deeply troubled marriage while trying to hold together a family, a career, and her own identity. And in many ways, that hidden struggle became the real story behind Loretta Lynn's greatest music. Number 5. Conway Twitty. The rumors about him and Loretta Lynn never truly disappeared. Few partnerships in country music created more speculation than Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn. On stage, their chemistry felt almost too real. Their romantic duets, lingering eye contact, playful interviews, and emotional performances convinced many fans that the two country legends shared more than just musical compatibility. For years, rumors spread across Nashville, claiming their relationship had become deeply personal behind the scenes. Publicly, both stars denied it. But the rumors refused to die. During the 1970s, Conway and Loretta became one of the most successful duet acts in country music history. Songs like Louisiana Woman, Mississippi Man, and After the Fire Is Gone felt incredibly believable because audiences sensed genuine emotion between them. Fans packed concert halls, watching the pair flirt naturally on stage, sometimes appearing more emotionally connected than many married couples. Soon, whispers began following them everywhere. Some industry insiders claimed the bond between Conway and Loretta extended far beyond friendship. Others insisted they spent enormous amounts of time together privately while touring. Tabloids fueled the speculation even further, suggesting that the emotional intimacy audiences witnessed during performances could not possibly be fake. What made the rumors so powerful was how convincing they looked together. Unlike many manufactured celebrity pairings, Conway and Loretta seemed effortlessly connected. Interviews often felt personal and unscripted. They teased each other constantly, laughed naturally, and spoke with unusual affection. Fans began wondering whether they were secretly in love, but unable to admit it publicly because both were married and deeply tied to traditional country culture. Yet the truth remained complicated. Loretta Lynn repeatedly insisted that their relationship was never romantic, describing Conway as a close friend and trusted musical partner. Conway himself also denied any affair. However, both admitted they shared an unusually deep emotional connection that became essential to their careers. In many ways, they understood each other better than almost anyone else in the industry. And that only made the rumors stronger. People close to them later acknowledged that the chemistry between Conway and Loretta was absolutely real, even if it never crossed certain boundaries physically. Some believed the emotional closeness itself became difficult for outsiders to separate from romance. Others suspected that parts of the relationship were intentionally kept private forever out of loyalty to family and reputation. After Conway Twitty's sudden death in 1993, Loretta spoke about him with visible heartbreak. Fans noticed the grief in her voice whenever she described losing him. For many longtime country listeners, that emotional pain only reinforced what they had believed for decades. Whether the rumors were fully true or not, one thing became undeniable. The connection between Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn was far deeper than ordinary friendship. And even today, country music fans still debate how much of their legendary chemistry was performance and how much came from something very real hidden beneath the surface. Number 4. Dolly Parton. The quiet secrets Nashville never wanted to discuss. For decades, rumors surrounded Dolly Parton almost everywhere she went. Some stories focused on her appearance. Others targeted her marriage, her business empire, or the carefully crafted public image that made her one of the most beloved women in America. But beneath the jokes, gossip, and tabloid headlines was a deeper rumor many people quietly believed. Dolly Parton knew exactly how to control what the public saw, and Nashville helped protect her secrets. At first, that idea sounded unfair. After all, Dolly built her reputation through extraordinary talent, kindness, and relentless hard work. Unlike many celebrities destroyed by scandals, she managed to remain admired across generations. But industry insiders often described her as far more calculating and private than the bubbly personality audiences saw on television. And over time, fans began noticing strange patterns. One of the biggest mysteries involved her marriage to Carl Dean, the famously reclusive husband almost never seen in public. For decades, rumors exploded claiming the marriage was fake, secretly troubled, or simply an arrangement designed to protect Dolly's career. Some people even questioned whether Carl truly existed because photographs of him were so rare. Yet despite endless speculation, Dolly fiercely protected that part of her life. The secrecy only fueled more rumors. Another topic that generated endless discussion was Dolly's decision never to have children. Publicly, she explained that career demands and life circumstances shaped that choice. But tabloids spent years inventing darker explanations involving health problems, hidden tragedies, or secret personal struggles. Fans became obsessed with trying to uncover the real reason behind one of country music's biggest unanswered questions. At the same time, Dolly carefully maintained one of the most polished public images in entertainment history. Former industry figures later admitted that Nashville executives understood how valuable Dolly Parton had become as a symbol of country music itself. Unlike many stars constantly trapped in scandal, Dolly mastered the art of revealing just enough personality to feel authentic while still keeping her deepest private life hidden from the public. Interviews were charming. Stories were controlled. Personal boundaries remained nearly impossible to cross. And somehow, it worked perfectly. What makes the rumors surrounding Dolly so fascinating is that they were never about one shocking scandal. Instead, They centered around the idea that America's most open-looking celebrity might actually be one of its most guarded. Even Dolly herself occasionally joked that nobody truly knew everything about her. That mystery became part of her power. Unlike many country stars whose hidden lives eventually destroyed their careers, Dolly Parton survived by carefully controlling the line between truth and performance. The rumors were never fully confirmed, yet they never completely disappeared either. And in a world where fame ruins most people eventually, Dolly's ability to protect herself may have been the smartest secret Nashville ever kept. Number 3. Waylon Jennings, the joke that turned into a nightmare. Among all the dark stories in country music history, few are more haunting than the rumor surrounding Waylon Jennings and the final flight of Buddy Holly. For decades, fans repeated the chilling story that Waylon gave up his seat on the doomed airplane only hours before the crash and made a joke that would torment him for the rest of his life. It sounded almost too tragic to be true. But it was. In the winter of 1959, Waylon Jennings was still a young musician playing bass for rising rock and roll star Buddy Holly during the infamous Winter Dance Party tour. The schedule was brutal. Musicians traveled across freezing Midwestern states on broken-down buses with little sleep, terrible weather, and constant exhaustion. According to people on the tour, conditions became miserable very quickly. Buddy Holly eventually decided to charter a small plane after one performance in Iowa so he could avoid another freezing overnight bus ride. Originally, Waylon Jennings was supposed to be on that flight, but shortly before departure, Jennings reportedly gave up his seat to fellow musician J.P. the Big Bopper Richardson, who was suffering from the flu. Another seat went to young singer Richie Valens after a coin toss with guitarist Tommy Allsup. What happened next would become one of the most devastating moments in music history. Before takeoff, Buddy Holly jokingly told Waylon, "I hope your old bus freezes up." Waylon jokingly replied, "Well, I hope your old plane crashes." Hours later, the plane went down near Clear Lake, Iowa, killing Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper instantly. The tragedy shocked America, but for Waylon Jennings, the emotional damage became permanent. For years afterward, rumors spread that Jennings blamed himself for the crash because of the joke he made before the flight. Some people believed the guilt haunted him so deeply that it contributed to his later struggles with drugs, depression, and self-destructive behavior. At first, many fans thought those stories were exaggerated myths created after the tragedy. Then Waylon admitted the truth himself. In interviews later in life, Jennings openly confessed that he carried enormous guilt over the incident for decades. He said the memory of those final words never left him, and admitted he often replayed the moment in his mind, wondering what might have happened if he had simply boarded the plane instead. What makes the story so emotionally devastating is how ordinary the moment originally seemed. Two musicians joking backstage, one random decision, one exchanged seat. And then suddenly, history changed forever. The rumor that once sounded like a dark country music legend turned out to be painfully real. Waylon Jennings survived the crash that killed his friends. But emotionally, part of him never fully escaped that night. Part 2. Minnie Pearl, the woman behind the smile, lived a completely different life. To millions of Americans, Minnie Pearl seemed like the happiest woman in country music. With her flower-covered hat, loud Southern humor, and famous howdy greeting, she became one of the most recognizable faces of the Grand Ole Opry. Fans saw her as warm, goofy, and endlessly cheerful, the perfect symbol of old-fashioned country entertainment. But for years, rumors circulated that the real woman behind Minnie Pearl was nothing like the character audiences adored. And surprisingly, those rumors were true. Offstage, Minnie Pearl was actually Sarah Ophelia Colley Cannon, a highly intelligent, sophisticated woman who carefully created the Minnie Pearl persona, almost like an actress building a role. Unlike the loud country stereotype fans expected, people who knew her privately often described her as reserved, thoughtful, and far more elegant than her stage character suggested. At first, many fans struggled to believe it. Because Minnie Pearl felt so authentic on television, audiences assumed that was simply who she really was. But behind the scenes, Sarah Cannon reportedly worked incredibly hard to separate her personal identity from the exaggerated country comedian the public loved. Friends later revealed she could move almost instantly between the two personalities, depending on whether cameras were present. That double life created enormous pressure over time. As her fame grew through the Grand Ole Opry and television appearances, rumors spread that she sometimes felt trapped by the Minnie Pearl character. Some insiders claimed audiences refused to see her as anything else, forcing her to maintain the cheerful country persona constantly in public, even during painful moments in her private life. And there were many painful moments. Behind the laughter, Sarah Cannon endured serious health struggles, emotional exhaustion, and eventually a battle with breast cancer that she initially kept hidden from much of the public. Even during difficult years, she continued appearing cheerful on stage because fans expected Minnie Pearl to always smile, always joke, and always brighten the room. What made the rumors so fascinating was the contrast between image and reality. The woman playing an exaggerated rural caricature was actually deeply educated, business savvy, and highly respected within the entertainment industry. Colleagues often described her as one of the smartest people in country music. Yet audiences mostly knew only the comic version she performed under bright stage lights. In later years, Sarah Cannon spoke more openly about how carefully crafted the Minnie Pearl persona had always been. And suddenly, fans realized the rumors they once dismissed were completely accurate. One of country music's most beloved personalities had spent decades performing a role that hid much of who she truly was. The smile was real. The talent was undeniable. But the character America fell in love with was only part of the story. Number 1. Elvis Presley. The rumor that he secretly wanted to leave Hollywood behind. For years, one persistent rumor followed Elvis Presley everywhere. Despite becoming the biggest entertainment star on earth, he was deeply unhappy with Hollywood and secretly wanted to walk away from fame to focus almost entirely on country and gospel music. Many fans dismissed the idea as fantasy. After all, Elvis was the king of rock and roll, a global superstar making movies, selling millions of records, and living a life most people could only dream about. Why would he want to leave it all behind? But behind closed doors, the truth was far more complicated. By the mid-1960s, Elvis had become increasingly frustrated with the direction of his career. Although his movies made enormous money, many critics considered them repetitive and creatively empty. Film after film followed the same formula: lightweight plots, predictable songs, and safe performances designed mainly to maximize profit. Publicly, Elvis smiled through premieres and interviews. Privately, however, people close to him claimed he felt trapped inside a machine he no longer controlled. That's when the rumors began spreading through Nashville and Memphis. Friends and musicians later revealed that Elvis often talked about returning to the music that originally inspired him, especially country, blues, and gospel. According to several insiders, he admired country artists deeply and felt more emotionally connected to stripped-down Southern music than the polished Hollywood image forced onto him by management. And then fans started noticing clues everywhere. During private jam sessions at Graceland, Elvis reportedly spent hours singing old country standards and gospel hymns rather than practicing movie songs. Musicians who worked with him said he became most alive emotionally when performing raw, heartfelt Southern music. Even some of his later recordings carried much stronger country influences than many people realized at the time. Then came the famous 1968 comeback special. The television performance shocked audiences because Elvis suddenly looked energized again, dressed in black leather, performing with passion, and reconnecting with the roots of his music. Behind the scenes, insiders said the special represented something deeper: Elvis fighting to reclaim his artistic identity after years of feeling creatively suffocated by Hollywood studios and Colonel Tom Parker's business decisions. Over time, the rumors that once sounded exaggerated began looking remarkably accurate. In later years, Elvis increasingly gravitated toward gospel recordings, emotional ballads, and country-inspired material. Many close to him confirmed that he often dreamed about simplifying his career and escaping the exhausting celebrity system surrounding him. Some even believed he would have eventually abandoned Hollywood almost entirely if he had lived longer. What makes the story so tragic is the contradiction at its center. The most famous entertainer in the world spent years longing for something quieter, more authentic, and closer to his Southern roots. And behind the screaming fans, blockbuster movies, and global fame was a man who may have never truly wanted the empire built around him in the first place.